I'm back! Hey guys, it's me, it's Dylan the BIGY. But I know. It's been 10 months! I've been gone for 10 months! Holy mother of God, I am so sorry, y'all, but I know what you're wondering. Why have I not made new videos? Mostly because of my mental well-being, like of me feeling depressed and such like that, blah blah, which is more important than making videos like this. But I'm kind of back-ish. I don't know if I'm back completely, but I wanted to do a bike guide review today because, well, I'm bored. So, let's get into episode number 76 of Dylan the Back of the Bike Guider Reviews, where good movies rise and bad ones burn. So Gen Zs, get the fuck, not Gen, sorry, let me rephrase that. Gen Alphas, get the fuck out the door and Gen Zs, come on, because I'm gonna talk about a weirdo named Fred. And if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, let me explain. Hey. So like around maybe 2004 or 8, there was a guy named Lucas who ended up creating a YouTube channel called Fred, which is basically his own skit channel about a guy named Fred Ficklehorn who's basically a literal teenage man-child who goes on adventures. And yeah, even though in some videos, like, you would see him talking to some guy named Kevin, or some girl named Judy, or some girl named Bertha, and you would hear that impersonating voice that someone, mostly Lucas, is doing. And yeah. So why the hell am I talking about him? Well, apparently back in my day, he was indeed popular on YouTube. In fact, y'all, he was the very first person to hit 1 million subscribers. Eat your fucking heart out, y'all, because that guy did it first. So in 2010s, apparently Nickelodeon realized it and was like, holy shit! We didn't make a movie out of this guy! And thus we have ourselves the Fred trilogy! Where on this video and the next video, I will review 3 Fred movies that had came out. The original, Fred 2, Night of the Living Fred, and Fred 3, Camp Fred. I'll explain what the fuck those other 2 are, but for now let's stick with the first one. So, and mind you, like this came out in 2010s, for crying out loud. Technically when Fred was in his prime, but by the time the 3rd movie came, he wasn't very popular anymore. And then they did Fred the Show, which was kind of good, I guess, but at the same time, damn, was that his downfall. Big downfall. But let's stop talking and let's just get on with the movie. So let's dig into Fred the movie and show you what the hell did one YouTuber did in an hour long, well, basically 1 hour and 22 minute long video. So the movie begins by showing that Versley Picture and some company named The Collection had made this movie. Or collective, not collection, but collective. And yeah, I know that's a weird title thing. And the movie begins with showing Fred Ficklehorn coming back home after school, and talking to the audience like he's making a YouTube video, even though it's a movie. But it's about him talking about how there's 2 days of middle school, and depending if there's like days of like President's Day, then he'll, like, he's basically talking about spring break, I think, or something. I don't know, but He's just so excited about that. So after the title card, or throughout the movie, they show some maps and photos of where Fred's house is, and as well as showing Fred's own school. Well, titled Lawrence Middle School, I think. And then we meet his crush that, of course, every movie has, or technically kid movies has, named Julie, who he, like, basically falls for. Like, if I'm being honest, if Fred was here nowadays, he would be a simp, an absolute simp towards Julie. I am not kidding, I really think so. But after weirdly following her all the way home, her car all the way home like a weirdo, and stalking her and all, once they both went to their home, we then also meet Fred Ficklehorn's own bully named Kevin. Now mind you, if y'all seen the YouTubers, I know. They basically, like, if you've seen the YouTube video version of Fred, then you will realize that they never showed those characters before. Even though, like, they were part of the channel, yet, and now in a big movie like Fred, they are now on her appearance now. And Fred talks about her and say that he wants to take it to the next level, even though, mind you, they show one scene where he barely even talked with her and he ended up bumping into someone. No. And he mentioned how his parents doesn't mind, like, that if he has a friend over. And he talked about how he loves singing and all. And then also shows the scene where one night he's singing that one song that mentions somebody called 911 or something like that, but yeah. And well, he then mentions that, like, he had one horrible Friday that day, which then shows Kevin and two of his bullies throwing a shit ton of dodgeballs at Fred. And despite Julie decided to be a sweet little angel and tell him to just leave him alone, of course he says no because fuck the bullies. So Fred set his fries in the microwave, and talked about, and for, like, some weird reason, he mentions how if he doesn't get food in his body, then he'll have no blood in his head, but then his head will fall because there's no blood. Next thing you know, his head literally falls off. And the dumb thing is, we know that's American head. Like, it is so dumb hilarious that I can't understand why, y'all. It's a kids movie, might I add. But before he cooked up his rice, he then like grabbed some cheese to put on his fries because apparently he loves cheese on fries, which I don't blame him because yeah, they're good like that. And also Fred mentions how he says, "Oh my, gam it." Remember that, y'all. Gam it. Not damn it. Gam it. Like, he adds G to the D since he can't say swear words like the D word. And when he mentioned how he loves musicals, of course they show the same damn scene of him singing 911. Somebody called 911 and such. Like, yeah, the song is so classic, but goddamn, Fred. And he mentions that Julie also likes singing and such, and then once he finally took a fry, he panicked because, of course, they were still hot, and he tries cooling his mouth off with the sink water, but it failed. Then decided to just spray his ass with a garden hose because Haha. And yeah, it was funny seeing him just struggle with it and all. And it translated to him drying himself off, but mentioned about his bully Kevin. Then mentioned how one Friday, or on the same day, he saw him and Julie singing because, And honestly, I'll admit, thinking about it now, what was Kevin's problem with Fred? Like, I don't think Lucas ever mentioned about, about why does Kevin hate Fred, because they always get in each other's throats. Like, but again, I don't know why. Like, what the fuck? Then Fred had talked about his one of many, many, many daydreams that you're gonna hear a lot, people. So get comfortable. The first one is about like Fred and Julie spending together on a pool, even though it was a kiddie pool, because mind you, Fred's a man-child. And he mentioned how he got Kevin arrested because of the way he's saying her, even though, like, I'll be honest, out of all law made-ups, that's the most retarded-ass one I have ever heard in my life. I think about it now. And yet, meanwhile, Kevin was actually getting arrested in that thing, Patreon. It was kind of weird, funny, but yeah, weird, because, like, why? It's just music. Unless he was blaring it on the speakers outside for the neighbors to hear, that I can understand. And then, like, it cuts to show the map again, showing that Fred is neighbors to Julie. But in the backyard, there's also a brick wall that is, like, not very tall, but, like, it kind of looks small enough to say, like, that Fred would try hobble over. But that, or even, like, take a small trampoline and try to to get like 1 foot over. But before that, he blows up a kiddie pool, which then he gets interrupted by Bertha, played by Jeanette McCurry. Oh shit. Okay, yeah, y'all. Of course, this was during the time Jeanette had a horrible time on Nickelodeon. Like, no, forget horrible. It was a hell. It was her own personal hell, to be honest. And yeah, I feel bad for her, even though she is a good actor, I can understand why she didn't want to act at all. But I feel bad for her, and I'm glad that, like, she's doing better nowadays. I don't know what she'll do in the near future, but whatever that might be, we'll see. And of course, Bertha talks about how it's weird that Fred has a kiddie pool, but Fred decided to, like, kind of change his mind about, like, swimming in the kiddie pool with him because of how childish it was. Because, mind you, Fred's a man-child. Like, seriously, think of any man-child you know in real life and then compare them to Fred. Because, trust me, he's just fucking is a man-child. So then Fred decided to get advice from his dad. Which, of course, they transitioned that. And they showed that Fred's dad is none other than John Cena. I repeat, Fred's father is John fucking Cena. Which color John Cena? Well, since this was in 2010s, this was part of his, like, orange attire for John Cena. And remember that because we will see him 2 more times in Fred 2, but we will only see him 1 appearance in Fred 3. And yeah, I think that was bullshit that they did that! I don't know why, but yeah. So Fred's like giving advice on like being brave and being a great singer. So Fred decided that maybe like he and Judy could like hang out together and sing music and all. And he thought of another daydream where they play like an Ace looking sounding song, which I can't remember what it's called, but I remember hearing it on the radio before. I just can't remember what song it was called. But when he realized Kevin was out there, of course, he was nervous as shit because, Kevin might be his ass. So when he tries, of course, Kevin, makes fun of him and all, and of course, things were getting a tiny bit heated, so he, ran back inside out of fear, and at first he thought that Kevin was coming back over to the door to, kick his ass, until it was revealed that it was his mom. Which, his mom does appear in the movie, even though she doesn't on the show, but I'll admit, it is cool seeing that, but at the same time, I can tell she is struggling. Had this been a rated R show or movie, she would probably be dead in the 3rd act. I am not joking. She might. Why? Because she is literally raising a man-child. He cares for him, but good lord. Lord, does she look like she's struggling? And Fred was also struggling on whether or not to try going over to Julie, even with Kevin out there, But when John Cena came over and was disappointed, and so much so that he did attitude adjustment right on to the floor. Why? Why not? But when Fred gets back out, he puts in a headlock for some reason, and they try talking about how they could find another way to go meet up with Julie, and he decided and Fred realized that the only way to her house is to go over the wall. And Fred started gaining the courage while also saying Cena's catchphrase, which was "My time is now." Not that you can't see me or hustle loyalty and respect. No, just the "My time is now" one. I don't know why, but yeah. But during so, Fred accidentally got his dad in a headlock tight enough to. But yeah, eventually, he lets him go, but Fred was go, and just punched him in the shoulder that hard enough that he fell right into the couch. And once Fred was ready, Cena was hold up. See, he was grabbing his chin for some reason, and it just cuts to Fred going nearby the wall again. I don't know why, but it's either because there was supposed to be a deleted scene where he punched him in the jaw or something, but who knows, because I ain't got no clue. But then, and Fred created a plan where he's gonna jump over the trampoline to go over to Julie's house, but he mentions that he borrowed it from his mom's, since she was using it for a workout. And he talks shit to Kevin and also telling him in a nutshell to kiss his ass by showing his ass right on the camera. Just not literally, but like just with his pants on. And he tried but failed, then tried again but also failed, then tried a third time but failed again. So he decided to put a tape on a helmet with the big ass pillow on top of it. And despite he did jump on the trampoline, he was like 1 inch too close on the wall and his head, square head. But when Julie asked like if he was okay, or what? Not Julie. Fred's mom asked if he was okay. He mentioned like how he hurt himself, but she asked like if he needs to go to the hospital, but he said no. So she mentioned that she's taking a nap. And that's the thing, y'all. Fred's mom would mention that she's taking a nap. No matter what she's doing, in the end, she's taking a nap. Because naps are fun, apparently. So Fred's next idea was to dig under the wall. And shockingly, despite he had a big ass shovel, he does shovel and shovel and shovel and shovel. Until eventually, like, he made the hole big enough, but was sweating like hell. Like, goddamn, dude. Like, he was so sweating, his face was orange. Or tan or whatever. But, yeah, it was that sweaty. So, like, once he was deep enough, he used a small... Later on, like, he used a small shovel. But once he was, like, fully deep with, like, a helmet, the mine helmet and a light bulb on the front, he then noticed a wire, which he didn't know what it was. So, well, for some reason, he just, like, smacks the small shovel right at it, which, of course, caused an electric burst. Not an explosion, but like an electric shock burst. And it came to a wire that led to Kevin's house that had knocked him off his treadmill, and scraped his arm good. And meanwhile, went back to Fred. This time, I'm in slow motion where, like, for some reason, like, he realized how awesome it was, even though, like, hello people, he could have died. But he ended up gaining energy from it, and he crawls all the way to Julie's house, which, yes, he does go over, but when he pulls out of the hole, he notices that there were two little kids there that weren't Julie or anybody in her family. So, like, he realized that he dug his ass all the way to China, which, spoiler, no he didn't. He only, like he said he would, he went under the wall. He was just a few hours or so too late. So, as Fred took a bath, he decided that he would disguise himself. Oh no. But then comes another daydream he has where he decided to make himself invisible by using an invisibility cloak, which in daydream wise is a going black silk or latex like outfit or something. And he actually made himself invisible and scared the shit out of Kevin. But it ends once Kevin was running back to his home. That's literally it. However, for real life wise, technically, like, hell, I'm not even gonna say this is an ability code because honestly, y'all, it's just a fucking poncho. Like, yeah, it's those ponchos you get at Dollar General that is colored camo, might I add. Which, yeah, I think that was the reason why it was called visibility cloak, because if you wear camo in somewhere where there's a lot of green, you could get yourself invisible within those, which, yes, it's called camouflage. But still, it's a fucking poncho! I can't tell the difference between a poncho and a invisibility cloak! I've seen other shows and movies that the ability is a better invisibility cloak than this! However, he decided to, get serious and try making himself invisible, but realized that this whole thing was just a big fat dud. So he tossed it in a trash bin and decided to do a bear disguise where he tried, making himself look like a redheaded woman, but yeah, that really doesn't work. But mind you, Kevin was also outside, and even though he was wearing a sling, Fred still ran back to his house once Kevin recognized him. But beforehand, Fred also realized that Julie, let alone her mother, wasn't even in that house. It was just possibly a different family. Then Fred freaked out thinking that Asian people kidnapped her, even though they did. And he talked about how he needed to call a lot of law enforcement, but forgot what number to call. Which, and I promise you, this is the last time they play it. They play that Fred singing that Somebody Called 911 song from that one night where he's singing music, and then he realized that that's the number he has to call. So he tries calling 911, but when the operator only mentions to calm the fuck down, they just easily hang up because yeah, if that dude, if I ever heard Fred talk, if I ever heard someone talking like that, I would have been like, and hang up. Because I'll be honest, had it been real, I would have listened. But if it wasn't, then that dude would have been on crack. But when he freaked out about that, Fred's mom finally came, and when he mentions about how she's been kidnapped and all, well, she did give him the best explanation, and that's that they moved. That's it. They moved out of the house and went to a different house. And then we get a crash out scene. Because yes, if y'all want to know the definition of a crash out, watch this movie. Because you would see a funny ass crash out right there. Which had Fred throwing stuff over, cushions, tilting frame overs, flipping chairs, throw plates. He's playing on the piano, honk a horn, kicking the table, and roaring like a dinosaur. But it comes to him slowly putting the stuff back together, which, honestly, if that was me having a crash out, I would have done the same thing because it's the right thing to do. But then later that night, we then see Fred in bed wearing dinosaur pajamas. Did I mention it before, y'all? Hell, hang on. Just hang on. Because mind y'all, Fred is a man, G-S-C, or no, is a man, C-H-I-L-D. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. sorry. Oh god, that's hot. And of course, and he's saying to himself about how he's not alone because of Julie moving out and all, even though, like, dude, could have looked up where he lived at. And when Fred's mom here, he's like, go to sleep, Fred. But he sang himself under the pillows, but then finally slept until he gets a weird ass dream where, boop, John Cena pops out of nowhere, and, you know, they end up driving off on an army truck, and John Cena was wearing an army outfit. Because why not? So, and he mentioned that Julie got kidnapped by kidnappers, but, and tried showing a like, video call for him that, you know, that she left for Fred. But at first, it showed it Dora the Explorer. Because, mind you, Nickelodeon made this movie. And they probably want you to remind about it too, with Dora. But at least thank God it wasn't like the CGI shithead version. But Cena gives him the real footage, and Julie talks about like how he's willing like to sing with him and all at his place. But Fred mentions to her that she realized like that he's under the bed. And in horror movie fashion, the kidnappers just drags her out of bed, and Fred freaks out, but John mentions that, like, they'll rescue him. But in a funny, like, dad-like way, John just realized Fred didn't have a seatbelt on. He's like, oh. So Fred put it on, and he mentions how like, how he hopes that Fred's his mom doesn't realize that they're gone in the middle of the night. But Fred said was like, don't worry, she knows who we are. Next thing you know, she's in the back of the damn car, or on top, I'm not sure, they don't show. And she was wearing a camel outfit and had a camel face paint, and he's like, I got your man right here! And they go, bah! And like, she was shooting that gun at someone, but I was like, what the fuck is going on? But Fred wake up, realizing how crazy that was. But it gave him an idea, and that's to go find her, like, go and ask her somewhere, since I think he remembers, like, his mom, like, mentioning the address that she found in the mail, which Fred does check out the location. Of the house, and check out what it looks like, which if y'all are curious, I'll show you. Oh, I know you can't see it, but yeah. And yeah, I keep my bright screen up that bright because, you know, fuck the sunlight. But yeah, that's what it looks like. So Fred thought, like, if he could zoom in, he could see her. But he doesn't see her. And I probably shouldn't show you this, but let's just say, like, it shows a man in a toilet reading a book that has a mustache. But if I'm being honest, even though, like, we can acknowledge that John Cena is most likely Fred's father, but I think the man that Fred saw in the photo, I think that's his real father, telling by the hairstyle similarities. And of course, Fred was freaked out about it and decided like he had to get Julie out of the house. But of course, there was a problem with it, and that's he has to go through the woods. But apparently he has a phobia for the woods because because of what happened to a little kid named Lil Evan Watts. I don't know, like, what kind of name is that, last name is that, but they do show a flashback where Kid Fred and Evan were playing catch together with a red ball. Until Fred accidentally tossed the ball right to the woods, so he went and grabbed it. But, however, he didn't came out. So long, I think at least, that Fred pisses his pants. I am actually not joking. He peed in his freaking jeans. And Modern Fred mentions that Evan never got out of that woods. Remember him though, because shockingly, there's a surprise somewhere in the movie. Then for some reason he calls 911 again just to see if he can get a route to somewhere. But they mention that he has to call 411, because 911 was for emergency only. But yeah, and they hang up. So he grabbed the orange bag and packed it up with his food and such, favorite food at least I think, and also. So, mentions that there's only one route to the woods and then to Julie's house, which is called the number 7 bus. But then he grabbed a bottle of ketchup and thought, oh, does he need ketchup? But then also thought not to, but then realized how it could be dangerous. Next thing you know, it cuts to him wearing a green hat, a green, raincoat looking outfit. In slow motion, he screamed that he's coming for Julie. And during Daniel Bryan, aka Bryan Danielson, or something like that, he was just freaking getting shot at by ketchup, and he was spraying on himself until he flips over on a counter and then screams over ketchup being sprayed everywhere. Oh my God. But it comes back to him looking clean on, decided that he hates ketchup and didn't want to bring it. But when he tried to pick up his bag, he realized how heavy it was, so much so that he fell and it can't hit him in the head somewhere, but I don't know where, but yeah. So then he sneaks all the way to his mom's room, and since he didn't know how much the bus would cost, he took $25. Then he grabbed a heavy coat, even though, mind you, it was spring or something. And yeah, what else? He then also grabbed the visibility cloak, aka poncho, and just mentions to the audience that it could rain if he ain't careful. Then he went outside and starts taking his journey to the number 7 bus, but of course, since seriously, I don't know why it keeps happening, because but apparently since maybe God was being a small bully to him or something, but I don't know, but probably not. Or Satan, most likely. Kevin just comes and to bully him more and more until he finally got to the bus. And again, since he didn't know how much they freaking cost, he gave him a 5. And slowly will make his way somewhere to sit, which he ends up which he then eventually realized that he wasn't on the number 7 bus at all. Next thing you know, someone mentions that he's on the number 6 bus. which is where we meet this weird emo ghost that I'm gonna call him for this and the next movie, because mind you, he does make a cameo in the sequel. And his name is Durf. Why Durf? I don't know why. And Fred talks about Julia, but good lord, what did his mouth couldn't shut up, and you can tell Durf was slowly going insane over it. And once the bus stopped, the driver mentioned only said end the line, which Fred thought like he might kill him or the others, but he tells them that it's just because, that he has to get off the bus, which he does, but he did end up at Julie's house. No, he ends up at a water park, weirdly enough. Yeah. Whole swimming pool with like a big ass slide and such, and sand. Which, ironically, Bertha was there too, and taking a sunbathe, and they had a talk. Bertha decided, before Fred leave, that they could do something cool. And she ended up putting Fred's body in the sand, leaving his head sticking out, like you usually do on a hot summer day. But eventually Bertha just leaves Fred there to be in the sand, and at one point when he was dealing with a fly, he grossly eats it, oh my god. But then comes in yet another daydream he has, where Julie is drowning in a pool. Well, despite Fred wanting to go help him, he's still buried in the sand, so... But in a coincidence, Kevin was near by the line where the slide was, so Kevin decided to yeet his ass all the way to the swimming pool to save him. And they just ended up seeing all the way out of there, but Kevin kicked Fred right in the head to wake his ass up. And you really see guy go to Julie's house, so finally, in slow motion, he just rises out of the sand and leaves, but of course, since he was covered in sand, he had to go somewhere, so at first he tries doing washing his clothes in the laundry, but the owner was you can't do that. And despite Fred was talking with him, he just eventually kicks him out. So Fred decided to do the next best thing, and that's do a car wash, where he then also buys a green apple scent. And yeah, he actually washed himself, fully clothed my ad, in a car wash. That is something that maybe even Jackass might do, just for fun. And after he gets himself dried up, he ends up having another daydream where he's singing a 80s or 70s song. But he does eventually wake up when a car nearly runs him over. After a few more, after walking further, he eventually ends up at a pet shop where he found where he saw squirrels. But in reality, they were dogs. And that's another trope of his character, in that he'll mistaken some like small blonde doggos, baby dogs, as squirrels, even though they are not. But apparently they mentioned that like they cost $795. Yeah, that's a lot. So like a crazy idiot, he decided to like slide down to his shirt for some reason, and once the workers realize about it, they tell him to put the dog down. But then one dude pulls out a bottle or mace for some reason, and they start arguing about the dog until the other dude tries calming him down, but due to him trying to grab the mace, the other dude turns his arm to like accidentally spray the dude in the eyes, which he falls on panic, and Fred leaves without the squirrel, and the poor dude was panicking because he got sprayed with mace. But eventually, like, he runs further to God knows where and ends up seeing a Mexican mechanical worker. I swear you, that is in the movie. I am not racist, but he is. But Fred mistakes him for like an alien that speaks a different language, and you might think, that they might take over his brain, even though he was confused at like, why was he being weird. So then comes, and honestly, this is oddly my favorite part of the movie, just because of how hilarious it gets the more he runs. And yeah, this is the scene that he always does until he eventually stops, and that's run. He runs and screams, going past a wall, past a fence, past another wooden fence. And it's not a metal fence, but that was the first one. Then passed by some trees and empty field. Then passed by a freaking train tracks where a train horn was blaring. I don't know where it's coming from, but it might hit him. Then it cuts. Oh my god! Then it cuts the freaking Fred a roller coaster rail, running for his life from freaking a roller coaster ride from other people screaming. Then it cuts to an outdoor or back restroom, which next thing you know, Fred comes out screaming, man, and finally he stops. Then says, "Damn." Because yes, god damn it, the brightness. Keep forgetting about that. Because yes, he's literally at a dam. Which then out of nowhere, there was a police officer there. I don't know why, but yeah, and he talks with him about like the dam and all. And talked about the woods and mentions Little Evan Woods, but he mentions that if he doesn't like want to like go through the woods, he could just go home. But also gives him the courage to like go straight to the woods, which shockingly enough, 48 minutes and 21 seconds, he actually makes it to the woods. And he slowly goes in there, even though he then runs out of fear, but slowly goes in, then goes deeper and deeper. Then we get the most what the fuck thing you would ever see in a Fred movie. And that's a deer. Or a talking deer, actually. No, I am not joking. He actually meets a talking deer. Why? I don't know. But eventually, he does get along with him, shockingly, and sing a song with him. And not a recognizable one, but just their own song. But when Fred started talking with her, the deer ends up running off. But then, shockingly, little Evan West popped up. Long red hair, torn clothes, looking crazy, might I add, but shockingly alive. Which, how? Because mind you, he was a child when he disappeared in that woods. So how did he even survive that woods? Knowing that he could have ate poison or poisonous water, or even a bear could eat his ass. And what did he tell Fred, Ed, even though he looked crazy? He found the ball. What the fuck, Evan? It took him that long to find one red ball? So, Fred freaked out and ran off, but Evan asked him to tell his parents that he's okay, even though he probably wouldn't. Then he found a bus stop and waited a while and even camped out for a little bit to wait for the bus. But meanwhile he then noticed Kevin driving by and Kevin talks shit to him, and he asked his mom to take another route so he go around so he can do it again, which he does again, but he wanted to do it one more time. But his mom didn't want to, even though he told him he was going to tell Dad. But then she's like, don't tell him. But think about it now. Why? Is his father the governor or something? Is he a famous rapper or what? Yeah. So Fred eventually ate some sardines and when he got encountered by Durf again. Because why not? And he talked for a little bit but not as much as what they did on the bus. When eventually the bus came and Durf let Fred know, and he got excited since he was finally gonna get to Julie's house. But as he was on the bus, a sweet old lady was carrying on the puppy from earlier. Oh, never mind. And he asked Fred if he wanted the puppy, but she freaked out because he realized it's a squirrel, even though my child is not a freaking squirrel. But he takes the puppy and they got to Julie's house and they both talked about each other. But they talked about how Fred had the courage to go through the woods and all, and he mentioned about little Evans in the woods, which surprised Julie because he's alive. But then again, I'm surprised they're not even, But then the fireplace started blowing more smoke until it realized that Fred was dreaming again. Surprise, apparently. So eventually Fred finally gets his ass on the bus since it was right there. Then bing bang boom, he gets to the house. He tries visiting Julie but realizes that she was throwing a party for some reason. But tries talking but Julie tries talking to Fred about it and like talked about how it was the wrong time like show up or something. But then when Julia politely asked Fred to leave, Kevin, being a douchebag because he's there too, because fucking course, he threw a food like I don't know if it was a pie or something, but he threw it right at his chest or pounced it right on his chest, which somehow made Fred vomit. Like first he vomited on the floor, then vomited on Julie by accident, and he just runs out of there and not knowing what to do, like he sits nearby the bus stop, but eventually tries walking home, but the bus driver comes by and in a kind gesture decides to like let him ride on the bus so he can get home. Free of charge. But yeah, and even though Fred like tries holding in his dress, like he eventually bursts out once he gets home. Because of course he's upset about Julie having a party and not inviting Fred. And complaining about it. But then he realized that the whole encounter between Kevin, Fred, and Julian was now on YouTube and was getting a lot of views because, of course, Kevin uploaded the damn video. Because that was his biggest fuck you to Fred. So Fred decided to do a 180 on all of them and invited them all, or technically uninvite them all and have his own party. But when he does it to Bertha as the last person to do so, so Bertha actually revealed that she didn't like the video at all, and that made Fred feel better, so he decided to invite her anyways, which she does, and they ended up hanging out and partying out, and they tried their best to like make it look like a good party with lights, fans, rap music, disguise, newspaper, the phone to like make legs and use mannequins and all. Like they use a lot of props to like make it a party. Hell, I'm surprised Bertha didn't become Fred's girlfriend. Like they could have if Fred was in love with her. Like seriously, I would prefer Bertha and Fred dating over Julie and Fred, if I'm being honest. And yeah, they did like a whole lot of like. I'll be honest, this is probably a long ass montage of this whole thing, but But eventually, like, it cuts outside where Fred was realizing person after person was, like, slowly inviting, going into his house. And he thought, what the fuck? But it slowly fades to black and cuts to day where, like, Fred was editing videos of the party and Bertha eventually, at least I think, went home. So Fred decided to, like, debate, but was debating on, like, whether or not to, like, upload the video or not. But yeah, accidentally, we, like, slammed his head right on the counter, which, of course, made him send the video, and he uploaded it. And after a scream, like, it cuts to, like, the video itself, which I'll admit is funny as fuck, because we all know it's just one man child and a teenage girl having a big ass party with their mom. Or with Fred's mom, at least. But hell, I'm surprised John Cena didn't even show up in this scene. And then for, like, some reason, and they did a bunch of scenes here and there with, like, some of the kids, students in school were talking about how Friday's party was fun, but some of them weren't invited, and they even showed Kevin bitching about it. Bertha saying that, she liked it too, but eventually it finally cuts to Fred's mom at the house and noticing Fred is still hooked by that computer for some reason. And, like, he was on the screen, he was seeing the same house. And when Fred's mom sees it, Fred zooms all the way in and shows the guy again. But Fred's mom realized that guy is named Danny Janae. I don't know who the hell he is, but apparently, like, she did mention that he dated that Dame Janae 15 years ago, but Fred realized that he was 15. And there's my theory on why I think this dude might be Fred's dad. So, of course, she decided, like usual, she was taking a nap. But then Fred knows John Cena in his last scene, and that's what he's doing, and he too decided to take a nap. But then Fred got shocking arrival of Julie. And she talks with him about, like, how she wants to sing, come visit and sing, which, even though Fred was holding his excitement, he was like, excuse me, so he closed the door and wow, with pure excitement. So yes, at least he has this happy ending. But then, for some odd reason, Darth was there, holding the light and be like, hell yeah, man. Like, dude, where do you come from? And the movie ends with Fred allowing Julie in and giving one final glee look on his face as the screen zooms out to the map one last time and saying the end. The first movie is completely nostalgic to me. It's funny, entertaining. It is my childhood, but I'll be honest. And yeah. But shockingly, it's not my favorite movie of the trilogy. Nope, because next time, whenever I do it, we'll go from romantic to horror, where we review a Halloween edition of Fred called Fred 2 Night of the Living Fred. So thank you all for watching. Please like the video and comment down below what movies you would like to see in the future. here, don't forget to follow me on Twitter. I would say follow me on my social medias, but if I'm being honest, nowadays I'm stuck on Twitter because fuck Instagram and Facebook because they just won't let me speak the damn truth. But yeah, so yeah, follow me on Twitter at Dylan the Bye, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.